All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to MMA Island. My name is Zach Harkness, and today I am joined by one of the top middleweight prospects on the planet and the current number 7 ranked welterweight in all of Bellator, Mr. Dalton Hercules Rosta. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I am doing great. Now, a little bit of breaking news that kind of just came out before we started. You have just signed a new multi-fight deal with Bellator, like minutes before this interview took place. So, do you have your next fight signed already with that deal? And how many fights did you just sign for?
So I just signed a 4-fight deal, 18 months, and I don't have my next fight signed up or signed for yet. We're working on it, but as of now, nothing's signed for.
All right. Now let's just go back to your last performance. Your opponent, Dwayne Johnson, was not supposed to be your original opponent. You originally slated to face off against fellow top prospect Romero Cotton until he withdrew from the fight with an injury, which he's kind of garnered a reputation for. Now, Johnson was a short notice opponent, and yet he took a very disrespectful approach towards you that I know you brought up in your post-fight interview after the fight. Were you surprised that he was that disrespectful, and was that the most trash talk you've experienced in your career so far?
Yeah, see, fight it's a fight game, so people are gonna talk shit. People are gonna try to get in your head. You know, we're not out there to be friends with each other in the cage, but at the same time, this kid act like he had a beef with me like my entire life, and he grew up with me, and uh, we were gossiping about each other in school or some shit, and he took everything to heart. And I said something about his mom or something like this. This dude just took it over the top. It was real disrespectful, trashy, street thug shit talking. Like I said, that's and one big thing about MMA is in fighting period boxing. When you watch press conferences, even though we didn't have one, usually the shit talk you see go back and forth, it's entertaining stuff. They're trying to entertain the fans. There might be a little beef going on between them, but most of the time they hash stuff out after the fight. They still shake hands, they respect each other, but they're taking jabs at each other beforehand. This dude just made everything personal from the very get-go. And the dude didn't even know me. Like you said, he took it on 2.5, 3 weeks notice, whatever it was. And the dude acted like I took something from him, or I was talking about his mom, or uh like I was disrespecting him or something. And you heard some of the stuff he said in the cage beforehand when he's across the cage. He was saying, "I'm gonna fuck you up, I'm gonna knock you out, you're too green, you're a rookie." And then when we were fighting, he just kept going. It was the same type of stuff over again. Like, "I'm gonna mess you up, you ain't ready for this, boy." Saying that I'm inexperienced and I'm gonna hurt myself and he's gonna hurt me and all this other shit. And it just, it wasn't cool.
So even though I would assume that you've fought more credentialed opponents in the past, like I would say Tony Johnson was more credentialed than him. And even on the amateur scene, when you beat Cody Brundage, he's gone on to do big things. But overcoming all that trash talk and beating him in the way that you did, which is one of the more convincing performances on the entire card, does that reflect as one of the most satisfying victories in your career?
Yeah. So I watched back on the fight. I look back. I have no problem shit talking. I find it fun. So if he thought he was going to get in my head by doing so, he was completely wrong. I started having fun with it, which at that point, you just make it worse for yourself. After the fact, I watched the fight after, and even though I was having fun with it, even though I was pretty much toying with them and could do pretty much whatever I wanted all fight long, and I cruised to like a dominant victory, I look back and there was times where I think I was having a little bit too much fun, where I rocked him twice. The first one was really bad. His legs were really wobbly. The second time, he did a complete 360 and was like stumbling, falling against the cage. And both times I look back and I'm like, man, if I wasn't so caught up on showboating and, taunting him and talking shit back to him, I probably would have hit him with, another right hand or a hook or a head kick or something to put him out, throw another little combo once he's hurt. But Instead, I chose to taunt him, throw my hands up in there, put my hands down. Like whenever he throws something back, move my head out of the way with my hands down, start talking to him. That's what I chose to do. And I was having fun during the fight. And, a lot of the fans liked seeing that. But looking back on it, next time I'll definitely go in for the finish.
Certainly was a very entertaining fight as someone who watched it. Now, previous to the fight with Johnson, you made a camp switch over to one of the best and most highly acclaimed fight camps in the entire world, an American Top Team. Now that you've spent some time at the camp, I'm wondering what you think that they do there leads to such success, and what are some improvements to your game that you can attribute to them so far?
I've been with them for 3 fights. I've been with them since before my fight with Ty Gorder. That was my first camp with them. But I definitely feel like I'm a more technical fighter. I'm smarter, making smarter decisions, better coached, and all around just a better fighter. Some things I could critique myself on, like I said, I let the finish get away from me in this last fight just because of taunting. I was having too much fun with it, but throwing that out of the picture, like just completely like disregarding that. I need to find a way to start finishing these fights. The opportunities are there, but I'm missing them. You know what I mean? It's not that I don't have the ability to finish them, because we've seen all throughout my amateur career, my first 3 fights that was finished. I finished every single fight, and even my boxing matches, where it's not just ground and pound. I was knocking dudes out cold. And obviously I showed in my last fight that I have the power to do it on my feet too. I wobbled him twice, but the dude was durable. The dude had chin. And like I said, I chose to taunt instead of going for the kill. And, obviously change that mistake in the future, and not do that again, learn from that. But also, like when I'm on top of them in ground and pound, I had opportunities to posture up and I didn't. So the little things like that I could definitely get the finish, and just got to go back to the gym, brush up on. Another thing is I had an arm triangle during that fight. I let it go. I'm not a big fan of finishing fights on submission, because I feel like a lot of guys just quit, whenever they're getting beat up, like the way I was beating him up. They just let me have it. And I know that a lot of fans don't like that. Some do, but, a lot of people prefer the knockout. I need to stop worrying so much about that. And actually, when the finish presents itself, just go ahead and take it.
Even though you may not be getting the finishes that you're wanting, you're doing a lot of winning. I mean, you haven't lost in your professional or amateur career yet. And I'm sure you can attribute a lot of that to American Top Team, which is a gym that's kind of associated with winning with its fighters. So what do you think is their coaching philosophy that sets them apart and that establishes that winning culture inside the gym?
Honestly, that's hard to answer. I think it's just, it's an individual sport, and there's a lot of individual coaches that go into it. And each individual coach is a great coach there. They're intelligent. They have great fight IQs. They're great at making game plans, and they're great at evolving fighters, and not just like, because you have a lot of fighters that will change, or you have a lot of coaches that will change a fighter's complete style just based off of their coaching style. And that's not the way it works. These coaches down here take what you got and they add to it. They add weapons to your arsenal. They add to your repertoire. I think that's a big advantage. And I think that's a reason why you see a lot of the fighters winning, the gym doing so well. And on top of that, not just the individuality of the coaches, but the coaches, when they come together and work together to help a specific fighter prepare for a certain opponent, they're able to work together and their game plans mesh, and they do a lot of talking and game planning together when their fighter isn't around. They have coaches meetings all the time, and it's all the way from the very top trickled down to the very bottom, like the head coaches and the owners, all the way down to the beginner coaches. You know what I mean? So I think it's just instilled in the coaches there. And I think that the gym does a great job in choosing and picking their coaches for their fighters,
I do. And on the broadcast during your fight, commentator Mauro Ranallo mentioned how cardio was a past concern for you in your earlier career, but now it is not so much of an issue. And you went on to prove that in the fight with Johnson by putting on a tireless performance. Now that your cardio does truly seem to have improved, what did you do differently during camps and outside of camps to get to this point?
So my biggest thing I feel like it was never actually like my gas tank, Obviously, I'm a more explosive athlete. I have more type 2 muscle fiber. You can see it just by the way I'm built, but you could see it whenever I'm striking. I explode a lot. My takedowns, I explode in my takedowns. I'm a strong individual. So I'm naturally going to gas quicker than somebody who's not, somebody who's an endurance-based athlete. But on top of that, I was using energy whenever I didn't have to. I was overexerting myself, constantly tensing up, not relaxing in between combinations, always stressing myself out. And I think gaining more confidence at the gym, training with the guys that I do and having the coaches that I do, and constantly seeing myself get better, training against the best guys in the world, like going toe to toe with the best guys in the entire world at this gym. Your confidence just builds and builds and builds and builds. And now I just know in the back of my head, I can compete with anybody, anywhere, whether it's striking, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, it doesn't matter. And I know I got the coaches and the training partners to prepare me for whoever. So, and I'm just going to keep getting better with time. I'm young, I'm 26. I'm one of the youngest, if not the youngest person in my entire division, definitely the youngest person in the entire top 10. And I mean, because of my age, I have the most potential out of everybody in the top 10, and, and I see my skill set's grown, I think, tremendously in the past 3 years since I've been with Bellator. And even though I haven't got the finishes in the past 3 fights, every single fight you see me doing something new. You see me, my striking looks better. I'm mixing up my striking with my wrestling better. I'm not wrestling as much, or when I'm wrestling, they're cleaner takedowns, or they're well-timed shots, or well set up. That's just going to keep happening, especially at the gym I'm at, with the coaches I'm at, and with the training partners I got.
So you mentioned with these training partners that you're going up against, and you realize that you can hang with the best in the world. Who are some of the most highly esteemed training partners that you've got in there with, and then were surprised, or maybe not surprised, but just pleasantly surprised, I guess, that you were able to match their ability?
It's not so much that I'll go into a sparring session and compare, after, I'm sitting there saying all right, I won that one, or I lost that one, or I sit there and compare myself to certain people. I was never that type of person to do that. I'm always in competition with myself. But I mean, just to name some of the guys that I'm sparring with and I'm getting good work in with, and we're going at it, back and forth. I mean, the list doesn't end, but just name a few names. You got the big names, Thiago Santos, he's a bigger guy. You got Marcus Perez, who was in UFC. You got Krzysztof Jotko, who's still at 185, Amari Akhmedov. You got Magomed Karamov, who was the PFL champion at 170. I constantly train with Sabah Homasi, Johnny Eblin, Austin Vanderford, and all these rounds are great rounds, whether, you'd have to have a judge there to tell you who's winning or losing. Yeah, I mean, those are just some of the names that come off the top of the head, but there's lesser known guys there that are really, really good too. Like Roman Feralda. He's a 170 pounder in Bellator. He just had the flying knee knockout, made it Sports Center, ESPN. Before it was in the Florida card, November 12th. Very good striker. There's Raymond. I don't know his last name. He just fought for Eagle FC a couple of weeks ago. It might have been the night after my fight. He's a very good striker, very good. And then you got people like Artem Levin, one of the best kickboxers ever. And he's a coach there, but he also trains and spars with the fighters still. And I've never had a close round with him, at least striking. The dude's just unbelievable. He toys with pretty much everybody. When you start doing well, he starts reading you, and then he'll switch it up. And pretty much I end up just taking him down and submitting him because I can't. The dude's just phenomenal striker. Next level.
So you mentioned Austin Vanderford, and I was going to ask you about him. And because you both train at ATT and you've trained with him, I'm thinking you're going to have a little bit of a special insight into his next fight, which is obviously for the belt in your division against Gegard Mousasi. So given your time training with him and what you know about him that other fans may not, What advantages do you think that he has against Mousasi that can get him the win in the belt?
So Mousasi is obviously a very good striker. Austin's obviously a very good wrestler. Me and Austin get very good wrestling rounds, and we get good sparring rounds. When I was preparing for Merrill Cotton, he was actually helping me out, and he was supposed to be fighting Gegard Mousasi earlier than he actually is. So I was helping him out a little bit. I was just primarily boxing, which is what Mousasi did. I mean, he throws some kicks and stuff in there, but primarily boxing. So that's what I was doing. He was trying to take me down. He was striking with me, trying to take me down, striking with me, trying to take me down. And, I'm a very good boxer. I'm quick. I have quick hands. I'm explosive. And, even though I'm not as tall as Mousasi, with me just trying to box and him wrestling and striking, the aspect, I'm trying to find a good word to use here, the diversification of, or the versatility of him switching up his takedowns to his striking and faking the takedowns and striking, and then taking me down, or getting in deep on a shot and making me really, really work to defend the shot, and then I'm tired after. And then some of the not so technically correct, awkward things that some MMA fighters do, and some coaches actually teach them to do this stuff that throws people off, switching stances and throwing same side punches when you're switching and stuff, just constantly putting something in their face, and then you shoot a takedown at the same time. These are things that I think Gegard Mousasi is not used to seeing, because I mean, one, he's been fighting at the high level for a very, very long time.
Oh,
but
decades.
Most people try to just go in there and wrestle him, or if they think they can outstrike him, they just sit there and try to strike. MMA's evolved very recently to guys. It's no longer like a Muay Thai specialist or a wrestling specialist. It's become more of like MMA actually becoming its own martial art, where you're not looking at them as wrestlers anymore, or just boxers, or anything I just said. So with his ability to do that, I think that's going to throw Gegard Mousasi off, and obviously he has the wrestling to take him down. And if he takes him down, he's going to hold him down, you know what I mean? And he's going to tire Gegard Mousasi up. Mousasi's going to be trying to get back up to his feet, because he knows that's where he's going to win. And he's going to be exhausting a lot of energy doing so. So, we've all seen Austin fight. We know that he gets to fights bloody. He opens people up with elbows. Those are obviously going to be threats against Gegard Mousasi, which he's going to have to watch out for. And if he's on his back, throughout most of the fight, it's going to be hard to, avoid. So I see Austin either winning by unanimous decision or, TKO, whether it be from a doctor stoppage because of blood, or just ref stoppage.
Interesting prediction. I could very well see it happening. Now, for your last fight, you walked out in a what you were confirmed later to be autographed Ryan Shazier jersey. And for people outside of the NFL fan, they might not know the significance of that. And can you give a little insight into your friendship with Ryan and how his story has inspired you?
Yeah, so I initially met him at the time was Inspiring Minds, which is a fundraiser charity type of event that helps like those that are less fortunate with tutoring, food, just extracurricular activities, keeping them busy, keeping them out of trouble. They recently expanded to Pittsburgh, and it's still seeing impact down there now. He's involved with that. But at the time, whenever I met him, it was Inspiring Minds, and he was invited to a cigar bar event. It was like Cigars with the Stars. And he was one of the guys there. We started talking, we exchanged numbers. We started playing video games and everything. And then we kept contact after my fights. We'd go get some food, get some dinner. We hung out a couple of times, came over. He invited me over his house a couple of times, played Call of Duty together a lot. So he ended up giving me a signed autograph game jersey that he wore during the game. And I told him I'd wear it during my next fight. So that's why I wore that during my next fight. But as for the inspiration, I mean, a lot of people that aren't that into football don't know the story behind it, but he got hurt in December of 2017 or 2018. I don't remember the year. The years seem to be combining together to me now. Time passes. But so he came down with a spinal injury. and he wasn't even supposed to walk again. That's what the doctors told him. And after, constant after just constant work on himself and constant therapy and like the belief in himself to walk again and constantly working and doing all these things so the goal was to initially play football again. He wanted to play football again. He was told he couldn't walk and he wanted to play football again. So he was tirelessly working towards that goal. And you could see the progress over time. If you followed him on Instagram, you've seen him in the news, you could see the progress he was making. He went from not being supposed to be in walk ever again to walking, and it was gradual process. He was walking with crutches or cane at first. Then he started walking with nothing. Then you see videos of him doing box jumps and running and doing these other things. And, it's just very inspirational because not only did he do that himself, but he gives back to the community and everybody around. So you see anybody else with a spinal injury in the Pittsburgh area, first person you see there, Shazier, first person that reached out, Shazier. You could read his book. I haven't read the whole thing. I just recently got it. But that pretty much tells his whole story. And a lot of people I seen after the fight were so negative towards wearing a Steelers jersey, and they don't understand the story behind the particular jersey I'm wearing. I'm a Steelers fan, yes, but Shazier is one of my friends, and his story is just truly inspiring, and he's always giving back, and not only for spinal injuries or anything. He just recently reached out to a family that was dealing with a child with alopecia. He's involved in the Steel City Impact, helping out these children that are less fortunate, giving food, coming in and talking to them, trying to give them inspiration, tell them that they can achieve anything they set their mind to. Everybody wants to help, and everybody always wants to, look good for the public. So they'll help when the cameras are on. He truly just wants to help people and do good and better the world and better society, starting with his home now of Pittsburgh. And, you see him do it behind closed doors and doesn't ever talk about it, doesn't look for the gratification. It's just, he's a great guy, and it's great to watch. It's great to be a part of.
It's annoying that people can't understand what that's from and only judging the team. And also, you're from Pittsburgh. What's the problem being a Steelers fan? But So I'm wondering, I've heard both perspectives from undefeated fighters when it comes to being undefeated. And you haven't lost in your amateur or pro career, so a lot of people might not know that. But does being undefeated going into your fights give you extra confidence that you've never lost? Or do you feel a little bit of extra pressure having to defend the zero?
No, that doesn't bother me at all. It definitely doesn't add any extra pressure, and if it did, I was always the type of person that did well under pressure. I was always the wrestler that beat the wrestlers he wasn't supposed to. You know what I mean? I honestly, I don't know, diamonds are forged under pressure. Only diamonds can cut diamonds. And if a diamond cracks under pressure, it's not a true diamond. You know what I mean? So I truly believe the greats and the best people that ever do it in the sport are going to do well or better under pressure. I mean, that's the only way to become one of the greatest all time. And I mean, to backtrack a little bit and answer your question, yeah, it doesn't add any pressure, but I'm sure one day it may. I'm only 6 fights into my career. One day it may. But I honestly can't wait for that day to come, because I truly believe that I do better under pressure, and I'd like to see exactly how I do whenever that day comes.
And you mentioned only being 6 fights in your career, and you're only just under 3 years, you have gone from, debuting pro to being ranked in the top 10 of Bellator's middleweight rankings, a career progression that is near unheard of in this sport. So given how much you've accomplished in such a short amount of time, in 3 years, where do you see yourself in the next 3?
Champion for sure. Like I said, I'm one of the youngest person in the division, definitely the youngest in the top 10. And I'm only 26 years old. I just turned 26. I'm 6-0, and another 3 years. I got off to a late start. So if you want to say, with my career, not age wise, but I was only fighting twice a year. I wanted to be more active, but for whatever reason, there was a lot of, whether it was Bellator, whether it was opponents, whether it was me getting hurt, that kind of slow track thing. So going forward, as long as I stay healthy, the plan is to fight 3 times a year at least. I would like to fight 4, maybe longer, or maybe more. And I see 3 years from now me being 12 more fights, 10 to 12 more fights into my career, 16-0, 18-0, and champion, and defended the belt a couple of times already. I truly see myself staying with Bellator. They're treating me well. I've had a great career. They gave me a great opportunity to start off with them as a pro. And whenever I'm given an opportunity to fight for a title, I'm going to take advantage of it. And like I said, I plan on staying here and defending the belt over and over and over again, putting my name in the Bellator history books.
All right. Well, I think that'll conclude the MMA portion of this interview. And I did want to get your thoughts on a few Steelers related questions, just because, I'm a Steelers fan myself. So given that you're from Pittsburgh, obviously you grew up watching Ben Roethlisberger the last 18 years, being the quarterback and just leading this team to so much glory. And now it's like the end of an era, 18 years. We don't have a lot of certainty. So what do you think is going to be the future of the quarterback position next year? Who do you want to see, and what do you think we should do in this draft?
Man, yeah, I grew up on Ben Roethlisberger. When I first started watching football, when I was old enough to understand it and actually become interested in it, that's who I was watching. So he's one of my favorite players to ever watch. And to see him retire, it's definitely a sad time, and I'm definitely getting old. But going forward, the quarterback position definitely got to be addressed. We have Mason Rudolph. It's not going to work with Mason Rudolph. He's had multiple opportunities to prove himself, and he even got beaten out by Devlin Hodges a few times. So he's not the answer. So whether we go with Kenny Pickett in the draft, if he's still available, or we trade for somebody like, I do not want Jimmy Garoppolo. I've seen that. And the people that he's a proven winner. Look at his record. His defense is winning those games. He in the playoffs, he didn't throw a touchdown, and they made it to the NFC Championship. Like, come on, like that's not what we need. Because trust me, our defense is not that great right now. We have great pass rushers and everything, but I think the numbers statistically, what you're seeing out of our defense, it's not that great. And part of the reason is because we can't keep the defense off the field. The offense isn't driving. The offense isn't putting pressure on the other team. And the defense is out there too long, getting tired. You see the beginning of the games, they always do great. Always. Then whenever they get tired because they're always on the field, then we start getting scored on. Then the big plays start getting ripped. So I think we need to address that quarterback position and the offensive line immediately. And I also seen rumors of, Deshaun Watson possibly, coming into Pittsburgh. I would love that. And I just seen that Kyler Murray was unfollowing all of Cardinals social medias and like the players and coaches and everything. So I heard he wants to leave. I'm not sure he would want to join like a rebuild team, but you figure we have Najee Harris in the background. We have a good receiving core. Chase Claypool was a little banged up this year, so he was dropping balls and everything. Didn't have a productive year. We seen him have his rookie year, but the weapons are in place. You got Pat Freiermuth there as well, who's been growing into Heath Miller, if you would. I think if we get somebody like Kyler Murray, especially a mobile quarterback, while we're rebuilding the line, which is the one problem on the offense, I think that could be great. And who wouldn't want to see Lamar Jackson versus Kyler Murray twice a year? I would love that. That's my ideal quarterback. And after that, I would say Deshaun Watson. And after that, I would say Kenny Pickett. But, I think those are the only 3 options to be competitive in this division with how the Bengals are looking. And obviously the Ravens, if they're healthy, they can compete with anybody in the NFL any year.
That's true. And you mentioned our defense, one of the stars of that, TJ Watt. A case could be made that he should have won the last 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards. But this year, it kind of seems like he has to win it, that it can't be robbed from him. What do you think of what would you think if he does get robbed? What would be your reaction to that? And do you think there's any chance that it could happen?
I think there's a very strong chance that it'll happen. They're already talking about Aaron Donald and Myles Garrett and all these other people, and it's like, look at the numbers. Look at the numbers. Numbers do not lie. He tied the sack record, and people are arguing that he actually beat it, but they counted the one as a tackle for a loss. And you look at Aaron Donald, and you not even just this season, you look at his numbers the past 4 years. Since 2018, he leads every single category: tackles for a loss, forced fumbles, sacks, QB hits, bad, everything. He leads everything, not just this year, but the past 4 years combined. They had a whole article, and he was well above Aaron Donald on all of them. And some of them Aaron Donald wasn't even top 4. It would be just ridiculous if he got robbed this year. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it happened.
Yeah, I think that's all the time that we're going to have for today. I would like to thank you very much for joining me here. Is there anything you would like to say to the people out there?
Just thank you for watching. Thank you for being supportive, and looking forward to the next fight.
Well, thank you so much to Dalton Rosta for joining me, and thank you very much for watching this interview. I've been Zach Harkness with MMA Island, and I will see you all in the next one.